Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is a returning guest. It's Princess Etch, a professional Etch-a-Sketch artist all the way from the USA. I believe, I can't remember the exact number. I think it was like 70 something, but I believe it was somewhere earlier last year. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it was definitely maybe even as long as a year ago at this point. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've obviously I always connect with the people I have on the show in the meanwhile and sort of track how they've been doing. And you've been doing a lot. You're a busy woman anyway, like business person and all around with everything. But I guess my first question to you is just like, what have been sort of the major developments in your life since the last time we spoke?
That's a great question. So, something that I haven't actually even gone super public about yet is that I've been in the process of rebranding entirely. I hired a designer that I found through TikTok. And yeah, I feel like, rolling the dice a little bit there, but it's been fantastic. So she's doing my rebranding. She made a new logo for me, and my new website is going to be debuting, presumably sometime in March, so very soon. So that's been kind of the focus of my 2022, is just kind of getting that set up.
This is a really good point. This is something I wanted to ask you about as well, because I saw that you did a post, and I can't remember exactly when this was. It might have been a couple of months ago, and basically you did a post where it was like bikini shots in winter, which just on a side note, you're crazy. Like fair play, but you're nuts. I admire the balls to do that. It's just like, Jesus Christ. What was it, like minus 20 or something?
Yeah, it was definitely a cold one. I can confirm that. Yeah.
Well, fair play. But I think the more interesting thing about that was that you did a video follow-up to it where you sort of spoke about how this was the post that got you the most kind of engagement, and you did it as like a mini experiment, also kind of an empowerment thing for yourself. But you kind of had like mixed feelings, because you said on one hand, okay, it's cool to get this level of engagement. This is awesome. This is, from a business perspective, this is what you want. But at the same time, you were kind of saying that it undermines all your efforts of everything else that you're trying to achieve with your brand.
Yeah.
And I think that, I want to sort of tap into that a little bit. But the main thing I want to get your opinion on is just branding in general, because as you said in your video, you have a very specific brand that, by all intents and purposes, I wouldn't say it's like, I would call it like a neutral friendly or family friendly brand. Let's call it that. Because a lot of your clients, range anywhere from just families to kids, to, some of your stuff has been picked up by like Nickelodeon and, brands like that. And you're always kind of commissioning art for all these different clients. So your brand is very important in that respect. And when I saw you did that, I was like, okay, this is interesting. And she's acknowledged this as well, which is what you did. But obviously you mentioned before you're doing a rebrand. So let's just kind of talk about branding, both from your rebrand and what you're trying to do there, and also just why it's so important in business.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll start with the post you mentioned about the bikini photos I posted. So yeah, in that Instagram post, which by the way got demonetized, I thought that was kind of funny.
It's interesting.
Yeah. In that post, I talked about how I decided to do this kind of cheeky photo shoot for a product that I received from a company. They made an Etch-a-Sketch pool float, and they sent me the product with the intent that I create some kind of social media post about it. And they didn't have any parameters, and they were thrilled with the post. They loved it.
I bet they were.
Yeah, because I tagged them in it and everything. So it was probably fantastic engagement on their part, probably way better than they were expecting. So, from that standpoint, it really helped grow my relationship with this company that sells these products. But yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm a big believer in kind of sticking to whatever the integrity of your brand is. And that to me was one of the riskiest things I've ever done for my business, because on one hand, it gave me fantastic engagement on Instagram, but on the other hand, that single post kind of changed the perception that my audience had of me before that point. Because while I'm known for wearing like silly, quirky things, and I'm known for, being just kind of colorful in the outfits I wear and stuff, I'm not known for necessarily crossing into the path of like overtly sexual. I've kind of kept it more of like a cheeky, coy, bubbly, fun kind of persona. So it was a big concern for me as an Etch-a-Sketch artist that tries to keep this more kind of family friendly sort of look that I might, upset people just by the mere act of posting something like that. Now, I did consult with like a handful of people before posting that. Some people, colleagues of mine, mentors, former clients and coworkers, like people that I've worked with in the past, like, does this make you uncomfortable? I got mostly thumbs up from people. There were a few people who were concerned that thought like, I don't know, maybe you should wear a one-piece bathing suit instead. And that was interesting to me because it's like, well, what's the big difference here, right? Like, it's the same concept. And so then it was kind of trying to figure out like, well, why is that such a big difference in the first place? Like, and trying to like reason with, okay, well, if I was behind the pool float and you didn't really see me, but it was obscured, and trying to like reason with all of that. And it was insane how much thought I had to like, I really considered before posting it. But I think it was for good reason. And then when it did end up becoming my top performing post of the year on Instagram, I was a bit crestfallen because it felt like that wasn't indicative of what I was building for years. And it was a bit disappointing to see that people responded to like a bikini photo of me more than my art or more than like what I'd been building. But I also concede that like humans respond to base desires. So, I mean, if I wanted to capitalize on that, I very well could, and I probably would experience a different kind of success. So, yeah.
And to be fair, like you mentioned, like before, like, by comparison of what your brand is, maybe it's more into the overtly sexual column. But when I saw them, I didn't honestly think that. I thought it was very just kind of. I thought it was more in the empowerment side of things, or more, I didn't really get like a sexual vibe from it, to be honest.
That's
like
that makes me happy to hear, because I didn't want it to be about that. Despite the outfit I was wearing, it was supposed to be kind of more cheeky and outlandish because I was in the snow wearing snow boots.
For instance, if you did like. And I've seen this before, that there's been people that have like similar brands to yours that have maybe posted, I don't know, pictures of them on a beach somewhere, and they're probably going to wear a bikini there, and it's like, is that inappropriate? I don't think so. I think it's all about how you frame things and how you present things. Like, for example, you're not going to set up like an OF account, for example. That would be inappropriate, and that wouldn't fit in the context of what you're trying to achieve, right? But with this, it's like, I mean, I suppose a more interesting question is, did you actually lose any business off the cuff of this? Did you get any pushback at all, or was it just all happy days?
Great question. So I paid close attention to my metrics when I made that post because I was really curious myself. And first thing I noticed is the number of DMs I got skyrocketed.
Okay. Well, from companies or just people?
People.
Okay.
And then my relationship with the company I worked with was, it really fostered that in a positive direction, because that's the first time I ever posted a product for them. So that went well. And then I gained a number of followers, but my net follower count was pretty much the same because I also like lost an equal amount of followers. So there were people who liked the post and people who definitely disliked the post and decided, like, I think I lost maybe 20 to 30 people that day. and then I gained 20 to 30 people. So
Mm.
that was curious to me. I think a lot of people they don't like seeing that kind of content if that's not what they're expecting, and I can respect that. So it's like I don't fault anyone for deciding like, you know what, not for me anymore. This isn't what I came to follow this account for, which is a shame because it's like the only time I've done that. But like, oh well. I
No,
guess
it's an interesting experiment. You know, I think it's
we
a
should
brick.
all post bikini photos once on social media.
I mean, you looked good. I wouldn't look good in that situation. I'm not brave enough to do. That. So
Oh no, you
hats
look
off to you.
great. You kidding me?
No one wants to see this. Anyway, let's talk about your rebrand. You mentioned that before, so I'm intrigued. Like, what are the major changes going to be? Like, it's fine if you got some stuff secret and you can't say. I get that, but like, what are the key changes? What's going to look different?
Yeah. So to give some context, I've been full-time Etch sketching now for about 5 years, and I've basically had the same color palette, the same logo. I feel like my logo's always been kind of busy and complicated, and I've never really liked using it. So I've always been super sparing. And when people even see it, most people don't even know I have a logo. I coded my website by hand in college, and it's gotten the job done. Like, it exists. It shows a gallery of my art, and people can use it as a resource. But you go to the website, and it just feels old. You know, it feels like, okay, it really could use a revamp, and it's not very responsive. So if you look at it on mobile, it's not going to look as good. And most people these days are using their phones for the internet. This was not the case when I built my website in like 2012. Like, it was, you know, happening more, but a decade has passed since that website was born. And I felt like it was time, and I wanted to target a more corporate clientele. So for me, it's the if you've ever heard of the 80-20 rule.
Yes.
So for me, I feel like 80% of my business comes from my top 20% of my clientele, and those top 20% are corporate. So I might spend a lot of time trying to get people to buy commissions that are like $100 or less, or, you know, buying prints and stickers and stuff, but that's like the bottom 20% of my revenue. So I'm recognizing that it would behoove me to put my focus more into tapping into the corporate market that pays the majority of my bills. So that's what I told my designer and what she had in mind when she proceeded with developing my brand. So I'm super excited. I've started kind of teasing it a little bit. I just dropped my new logo in a video of mine, and I didn't even announce it, but I'd like to make like an official whole rebrand reveal. But it's been it's really exciting, and I feel like it's much more indicative of the direction that I want this business that I've created based on this like persona of myself to go. So it's like got these happy, fun, bright colors, but it's still it looks professional and clean. It's silly, but not like too deep into the silly category. She had to reel me in.
No. I get where you're coming from. It's difficult when you spend so long building up a particular brand, and then to be fair, I've been thinking about the same thing recently. Take for example the podcast. Like, you know, I've had slightly controversial people on the podcast before. I've had like political people on the podcast before, and people in my community kind of said, well, is this direction you want to go in? Because if it is, you know, you're going to put yourself up to criticism and stuff. And to be fair, whatever you do, you're going to get criticized for it. But
tell me about it.
I mean, for me, I'm a massive hippie, and I look at politics from afar. I have a minute interest in it, but it's not really what I want this to be. Like, I guess, and it made me think like, okay, well, what is this exactly? What am I trying to achieve with this? And I think for me, I guess what I'm trying to do is talk about topics that I'm passionate about, that are connected to me, or I have some knowledge on, and to share stories and stuff like that. Because I like to think of myself as a storyteller, but you know, it's not for judgment.
I mean, I agree. I definitely agree.
As a bit, but when it comes to the guests that appear on this show, I think what I'm looking for is people with stories to share, with things that they're doing that are particularly extraordinary. It doesn't have to be amazing, by the way. It's not like, oh, I'm changing the world with this. Sometimes some of the people I've had on the show are surprising. Like I always give the example of, there was a guy that came on my show quite early on, and he was a fellow podcaster, and that's what I thought we were going to talk about. But then somehow we got into the topic of like alcohol, and he very briefly mentioned that he recovered and gone through that process and came out the other side. And I was like, oh, cool. Would you be willing to share that story?
Wow.
And he did. And then for a good 10 minutes, I had that story, and I was blown away. I was like, this is amazing. But it got the sort of cogs turning in my head, and I started thinking about, okay, maybe that's the kind of direction I want to go in with this. I want to interview fascinating people and really put them over in the right light. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not really the person to like put people to task, which is what you would need to do with politics. Plus, you need to be very well informed in that. You need to know both sides, know what you're talking about.
Sure.
And that's the thing. Like I'm good at ad-libbing and having a conversation with someone and getting something out of someone, but I can't be that person that's like, do you know what I mean? That's someone else. You want that? That's someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's one of the reasons why I was interested in returning to your podcast, because I felt like it was really easy to kind of keep the conversation flowing with you in a really organic way. So I can totally understand you wanting to lean more into those strengths, and maybe dabbling in the occasional political guest, but not necessarily wanting to rebrand your podcast to go in that direction. That's a pretty tough direction.
The reason I bring it up as well is it's like, with us talking on the context of branding, like it has to be kind of consistent across everything that you do. So, I'm writing music, I'm doing live streams, I'm doing acting, I'm doing all these different things, which they're not directly connected, but they are connected from the branding standpoint, and if you have to think about things like what you did with that post. It wasn't just I'll just do this. It's like you had to sit down, think about it, get a lot of different people to give you kind of like feedback on that. And then you made your decision. And it's the same with what I'm doing. And I really respect that from a business standpoint. And I think it'd be interesting to see where your business goes from here. Because actually, just on a side note, like, what would you say are kind of your main, I hate to be like pry as far as like what are your main sources of revenue, but what are the main parts of your business that are kind of like driving you? Is it the commission stuff? Is there like a daily thing that works for you? I know you do live streaming, which we'll get into in a bit, but like, what's the main drive? Is that why you've chosen to go down this route? Is that kind of the better?
Sure. Yeah. So I love talking about my streams of revenue. So it's always fun to me to hear about how people like get by in life. But so for me as an Etch-a-Sketch artist, I'm a kind of a hybrid of a product and service-based industry that I run as my business. So one of the things that I do is teach workshops. So that's kind of the clientele for that is a lot of like libraries, children's museums, park districts, and the like. And then I will work at private events where I draw people's portraits, kind of like the concept of a caricature artist, but it's more like a life drawing. Those are done in minutes. So that's more of like a corporate kind of clientele or like a private event sort of clientele. And then I will do time-lapse videos for more corporate clients. Like I'll record myself doing a drawing on Etch-a-Sketch, and then companies like Disney and MTV and Callaway Golf, for some reason, these are companies that like they've hired me to make content that they use for social media as like a marketing tool. So those are, some of the more like top build services I offer. And then my mid-tier services are commissions, which can range usually between $200 and $1,000 USD. So those those kind of like capture my mid-tier clientele, where basically the size and the degree of detail in the subject matter is what determines the price of the commission. So I could do a portrait of a single person on a small Etch-a-Sketch for $200, or a portrait of a whole family on the large one for like around $1,000. So there's like a whole variety of, at my like bottom level, and other kind of like print related products that can range from like, $5 to up to like $40. So I kind of planted some seeds in different, monetary categories to capture different audiences, but my rebrand is focusing more on watering the plants that are on a more corporate level, because those are the ones that have bared the most fruit and that paid the most bills for me. So that's kind of that's sort of the reasoning behind the upcoming rebrand. And also just recognizing that like in order to maintain this business that I've created, I need to like put my focus more on those things too. But I do also live stream. Yeah. Oh, and the last thing, this one I think we can talk a lot about. I've started investing more into like the residuals that come from things like YouTube and TikTok, and Instagram. Like Instagram has, I don't know why, but Instagram Reels is paying incredibly right now. Like I'm getting a penny a play on Instagram Reels, which is insane. I think I've made this year alone, I've made definitely at least like $400 just by like basically reposting content that I've already made for TikTok onto Instagram Reels. And I don't make that much money on TikTok through the creator fund. The creator fund doesn't pay out like nearly the same rate. So I expected any day that Instagram Reels is going to like get super nerfed and they're not going to pay out that much anymore, but I'm trying to ride this wave as long as I can. So, yeah, YouTube, I'll get like some AdSense, and then Instagram and TikTok. I'm going to have to sneeze in a moment. I'm just warning you. It might go away. I'm feeling it going away now. Okay, we might be good. Okay.
Oh man, I got questions for you for days. But
I figured.
I just want to talk a little bit more about Brandon for a second.
Yeah.
So actually, before we get into that, one final question on what you sort of the tail end of what you were talking about before. Do you find now that you sort of got this established brand in the manner that you sort of built it up? Do you have sort of people approaching you more for business now, or are you still having to kind of push that outreach to clients and potential clients? Like,
great question.
Yeah, like where are you at with regards to that?
So I'm pretty fortunate in that most outreach these days, or most of the business I get is people who connect with me. But I'm also in a position where I recognize if I'd like to flourish more, I need to do more outreach. So I'm pretty privileged in that for the most part, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, it's been more people connecting with me than vice versa. So for that reason, I'm not necessarily as practiced in doing the kind of like cold reach out, but it's always benefited me, and I'm trying to do that more, especially through TikTok live streams. I'll sometimes bring up a lot of like calls to action to get people to consider some different products that I offer, or one of the things that I do, I haven't had any success yet, but like, why not keep trying? I'll say like, if there's any librarians in this chat room, like hit me up. I teach digital workshops. I would love to teach a workshop for your local library. We can make that happen. So I'm trying to like, in those senses, like trying to like work with an active audience to see if like I can turn that like warm connection into an actual transaction.
You know what? I'll reiterate that as well. Or is that the right word? I don't know. My words are escaping me. I agree with you. There you go. I used to be, years ago when I first started doing this, I used to be very adamant, like, no, I will not ask my audience to do that. It's up to them. They can make their own minds up, etc. And it's just kind of a stupid way to think. I mean, it's noble, but the reality is, as you say, you've got that soft interaction with your client base or potential client base, but they don't know what you do necessarily. And it's just good to remind them, like in my live streams, whenever I have like a new person pop by and they seem to like who I am, I'm like, hey, by the way, I do this, and this. And they're like, oh, really? Where can I find that? And then you drop the links and then that's it.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Yeah. Because I consider all of this to be an advert of such. Do you know what I mean? Like, for instance, it would be very easy for you or other people to come on the show and just advertise for like half an hour, but who wants to listen to that? You know, it's more
Right.
interesting to find about the person behind what's going on, you know. And if there are people that watch this that, you know, they really dig you and what you do and everything about you, they're more likely to buy off the, you know, because of that, as opposed to
Right.
like just a 5-minute sales pitch. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
Absolutely.
But
I think it's a good point, especially in live streams, because you're already talking to your audience. And one thing that I've learned, especially with my current website, is that I do a terrible job of advertising the services that I have to offer. And that's one of the reasons why I felt like I needed a new website, because it's a miracle that I still get work for a lot of these services I provide, because what often happens is I'll get an email from a company saying like, do you do this? And it's like, oh yeah, I've done it a million times. And that's like, I've recognized I'm not communicating that enough. So I feel like I'm on the side of the spectrum where I'm sometimes not doing a good enough job of really communicating my value. And that can come in the form of calls to action. But I think it, you know, when they're intentional and when it feels organic, that's like, I think that's the time to do it. Like, I'll get people who join a live stream and they'll say something like, oh, wow, like, can you make these permanent? And like, you know, that's like my number one question for my Etch-a-Sketch art. And so I totally get why people ask it. And I know I get the question thousands of times, so I'm answering it a lot. And basically I'll explain it like very quickly in the stream, and then I'll say, if you want to see the full process, I have a pinned video that you can watch right here on TikTok. And you know, if you're really interested, thank you for the organic plug opportunity, by the way, I have an Etsy shop where you can buy the original art. So it's nice to find those like organic segues to actually like essentially push your agenda. But also like, you know, find a meaningful way to connect with your audience in a way that's not like too salesy, but not like, you know, you're allowed to be salesy. Like, we're all kind of running. I think most people who have like social media that are, you know, offering a service are posting on social media for the purpose of like advertising their service in some capacity, whatever that service may be. You know, if you're selling a product or, you know, whatever, I think, you know, the hope is that if you post a video on social media or a, you know, a photo or anything, that people will follow you, stick around, and want to like find out more about what you do and buy whatever the product may be. So I think if we're like honest about that, then cool, you know, it's like, it's all like
man,
a willing facade we're in.
it's so hard, you know. Like I honestly, I've had some moments over the past year even where I thought, okay, this is it, it's finally happening, and then it just didn't happen, you know. I got a video to close to 3 million views. It's
Wow.
viral. That's amazing, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's super
okay,
viral.
it's beginning to happen. I built up a following. It's like 29,000 on TikTok. I was like, this is it. It's finally happening. And then views dropped. Just I mean, I struggle to get any interaction now. And that's just on TikTok. I'm not even talking about anything
Yeah.
else. I think the only thing that's really grown, the two things that have grown a little bit have been the live streams, the audience,
Cool.
and then the podcast. There's people listening to it. Hey, oh yeah, thanks for listening. Thank you, I appreciate you. But the reason I bring this up is that it's so hard to get people to stick around, even if you do
Yeah.
have those moments. You know, like I had a live stream recently that got like 1,000 viewers or something. Amazing, right?
Yeah.
But then no one really stuck around, and I was gutted, and I was like, ah, oh, okay. But that's the nature of what we do. It's just continuous. You have to keep going and keep going and keep going and never stop.
Yeah.
But you're 100% right. Every time you post anything, you always got that hope, like maybe this is the post, maybe this is the thing, maybe, you know. And that's the way I try to look at it. I try to, you know, and there's good days and bad days. There's days when I go to bed and I'm like, oh, well, I'm fed up of this. And then the next day I wake up and maybe it's a slightly better day, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you just have to keep trying, you know, got to be in it to win it.
Absolutely. And I feel like TikTok in some ways is the worst offender when it
Mm,
comes to that kind of roller coaster feeling, because the algorithm will give you this moment of like supreme joy of like, whoa, my post is performing phenomenally. Look at all these people I'm reaching out to. And it's always like such a quick burning candle.
Yep.
Like consistency is not the name of the game on TikTok as far as like the engagement your posts get. And I've learned the hard way that like growing an audience on TikTok does not in any way, shape, or form indicate that your posts are going to perform well, because
Yep.
TikTok doesn't even normally show your post to the people who follow you. Same with my live streams. Like I'll have a phenomenally performing live stream, and almost every single live stream I've ever had on TikTok, it will be 96% of people who join it do not follow me. And 3 to 4% are people who follow me every single time. And that's with return viewers. Like I'm starting to recognize usernames in the chat and profile pics. And even still, 3 to 4% of those people are repeat watchers, which is mind blowing to me. That's so like, in some ways that's incredible. In other ways, it's like disheartening, because it means that like you're not reaching the people who care enough already. But you know, you're always reaching someone new. So like
This is the thing. Yeah, it's like if you do like, the way I look at my live streams now, like I did one earlier and none of my core audience were there and I was gutted, but I reached some new people, which was cool. Actually no, there was one core viewer, actually, shout out to Vilma. And but I just reasoned that as like, hey, people are busy, you know, can't be there all the time, right? But every time I've done, because I do like Thursdays and Fridays now, and I shortened I used to stream like every day, and now it's like 2 days a week. And part of that is for mental health reasons. Part of that is to have more time to do what I need to do, like other work commitments, because I'm a workaholic. And then it's just, you know, it's a bad thing, isn't it? You got to give time for yourself. But inevitably I just end up doing other work. Anyway,
sure.
Those people that keep coming, 5 or 10 people, or in your case, I mean, I you know, I've seen the crazy numbers you get, but there'll be like core people that you keep seeing in there, like those core names every time. And those people, and this is why I make a point of, in my live streams and on my podcast, I always thank everyone. I did it the other night, and I said, thank you so much. Without you, it wouldn't be possible. And that's the reality. And those people, that number will grow one day. It will get, you know, it will get to the point where it's impossible to keep up with everyone. But, you know, you'll never forget the people that were with you at the beginning who, you know, and that's the thing. Like I think it's a journey, and, you know, but it's different. Like some people get those crazy numbers eventually, some people never do. But, you know, even if you've got like 5 or 10 people that care, that's incredible. That's something. It
is. I'm going to show you a photo. 1 second. I'm sure this may not show up well, but this is a photo. I don't know if she'll listen, but this is Lily. She's like my biggest fan. This is me and her at Comic-Con. And she found me through Instagram years ago, and she joined some of my Instagram live streams. And on Instagram Live, I would get maybe 12 people watching. That was a good day on Instagram Live. That's like still my best numbers on Instagram is like 12. And she became my #1 fan. And to this day, she gets a Christmas card every year. I love Lily so much. She's so awesome. She's been a huge supporter of my art, like spending like a disproportionate amount of money compared to like, you know, a lot of my other fans. And she's just the sweetest. And you never want to forget those that like, you know, that were there for you, especially early. 'Cause it's like, those are the kind of people that help you to like remind you of like what you're doing. I went to a Comic-Con like a decade ago, and one of the people on this panel, it was a panel about like nerds in business. It was awesome. But one of the people, they were a live streamer a decade ago, which was a very different experience. And he said, every person you reach is a miracle. And I love that so much. I tried to like live by that phrase. When I see repeat viewers, I like to say in my live streams, usually before I sign off, I'll say like, you could be anywhere on the internet right now, and you chose to be here with me, and I really appreciate that. because the internet's a big place, and there's a lot of people that you could be getting, possibly superior entertainment from, but like you connect with me, and that's really cool that like you're not scrolling away, you're not swiping to the next video. Especially with TikTok, they make it so easy for you to just immediately leave a video and move on to something else. So it's something to cherish, that like people care enough. That's really cool. And
I used to complain a little bit about the numbers. I don't do that anymore now. Like once in a while I'll be like, oh, it'd be nice if we reach some people, but it's just like in a joking way. Like I cannot kind of quite put into words how much I appreciate like the people that watch me and who listen to the podcast, who check out the live streams, who check out the videos I do, whatever. Like there are this core community of people who I really love, who have been there from day one for a long time. And I think little things remind me, like, I think one of the reasons why I keep doing the live streams is because they keep showing up and they keep, they look forward to them. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I really try to make them as entertaining, as engaging as I can. And I really put a lot of effort into it, just like I do with the podcast and everything else. Like I take it very seriously. And I think it's because of them. And some of them have reached out to me here and there and told me that, whatever, the podcast, the live streams, the videos got them through like a difficult time. And then that kind of, that was when it started hitting home, like, okay, there's something bigger than myself at play here. That's a reason why I should keep doing this. And, if I can entertain people, bring some happiness into their lives, then that's a good enough reason to keep doing this. And, I think
that's really incredible.
You got to remind yourself sometimes, don't you? You get those days when you're like, and then you start putting stuff into perspective, and then suddenly that makes you more grateful, and then you start having the right attitude again. And I think that's the key, because it's tough. It is tough. You get those bad days. You get those days when you don't have a great attitude, and then you just have to reevaluate and remember those people that are always there for you, who, tell you these amazing things, like that fan of yours who. Do you know what I mean? Like you've probably massively inspired that person to do things in their own life, and that's meant so much to them. And of course they're going to be a fan of you for that, and that's amazing.
Yeah, I definitely I also kind of like ebb and flow with, like, I'll find that there's days where I'm frustrated that my posts aren't performing well, or I'm not hitting the audience I might have used to have reached at a different time. And the thing that I feel like it's a dangerous line of thought, but it's really easy to think, is like, I've been doing this for so long, things should be easier now. Like, it was supposed to get easier by this point. And that's such a dangerous, I don't recommend anyone think that way, because there's so much outside of your control when it comes to social media, especially, that like you just can't afford to have that kind of an expectation, because you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Like, there will be things that, like, maybe one day TikTok is going to tweak a certain feature and it's just going to completely destroy whatever empire you've built there. Like, we don't know. There's so much outside of our control. And on the flip side, TikTok can introduce a new feature that like completely changes your life for the better. So it's like, I guess you just got to take things day by day and do the best you can. And just, I agree that like having an appreciation is probably the best thing to do to combat the feeling of like frustration, or I mean, even maybe like entitlement toward feeling like you deserve more of an audience, or like more traction on your posts. Because I know I've definitely felt a degree of entitlement, and the entitlement can come from past performance of previous videos. Like, well, these did so well, therefore this one should too. Like, why doesn't this one? This one's good too. And feeling like, well, this video I made is one of my favorite things I've ever done. It deserves to be seen by more people. And I think just kind of recognizing like it's not a meritocracy either. That's helped me a lot, because then it's like, I've said this before, some of my best performing posts on TikTok are, in my opinion, some of the least deserving. They're the videos that I threw together as an afterthought. The production value is non-existent.
Yeah.
Like they were like, I would like post it, walk away from my phone, go to bed, wake up and find out it went viral and be like, I had no idea. Like that's the posts that have gone viral for me. And the ones that I like storyboard and sit down and plan and film and refilm and edit to perfection, those are the ones that flop.
Yeah.
So
Do you know what? Like, because I got mixed feelings about this, but one thing, and I remember when you first came on my show, like I was obviously enamored with just what you do and everything about you. That's what you're a really cool person. But one thing I immediately clicked on with you was like, she's a businesswoman. I like this, and I recognize this in people. And some of the people listening right now will be like, "What the hell's he on about?" Like, you know, the thing is, because when I was at school, I was like heavily into business. I started studying it. I went to university and studied business with marketing. Like I've always had a big business mind and interest in it. And you know, I don't know your background as far as that's concerned, but I can tell you've definitely studied it at some point, or you've got like a keen interest in it. And I think what I'm trying to say here is that I think we have a danger of always looking at things through those frames sometimes. Like, it's difficult to just take it for what it is and go, do you know what? There's progress. Because when I look at the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a massive progress. But because we're thinking of it from the business perspective, especially with you, I mean, you're actually selling products and services. So you're further down the line than I am on that regard. And you're even more keenly looking at it because you have to be looking at it over time and going, okay, what progress are we making? Am I doing enough to kind of push this upward curve, or am I not doing enough? Is it stagnating? Is my current activities right now, are they preventing me from reaching new levels? And that's, I think that's the difficulty, is we're battling with ourselves in that we have to sometimes kind of take a step back and go, do you know what? This doesn't have to massively succeed every 5 seconds. Like sometimes the successes can just be small things. They can be things like, hey, you know what? There are 5 people watching right now, and those same 5 people have been watching for the past 2 or 3 months. That's incredible. You know, stuff like that.
I agree. I think, you made a really good point there. Like sometimes progress is very incremental. And I know that I always want progress to be monumental. You know, I want it to be exponential, but it's not sustainable. And you can't help but feel a little envious toward the videos you watch on TikTok where someone's like, you know, thanks everyone for the 3,000 orders from my last video. And it's like, I hate you, but congratulations. Like I have not, that's something I want to emphasize. I've never posted a TikTok that caused me viral sales. I had one video that got me 7 sales on Etsy. And that was, I celebrated that, man. I posted a video. I danced in that video. I'm still proud of that moment. And that was a very, you know, looking back on that, it's a humbling moment because like 7 sales is still worth celebrating. Like that, I'm so glad that I took that moment to just celebrate that and be happy about it, because like, I don't need 3,000 orders to sustain my business. It would actually probably cause my business to buckle if I got 3,000 orders overnight. So it's like thinking about those kinds of things where it could be frustrating to feel like you're not necessarily reaching like the echelons you're hoping to reach or the meteoric growth you thought you were on the path for, but you're still doing better than you were yesterday, or you're still, just the act of posting the content is a victory in itself. Just the act of creating the new thing and putting it into the world, even if like nobody sees it in that moment, that's a victory. I'll share a very brief anecdote if you don't mind. One of the coolest strange experiences that happened to me early in my career was I had the opportunity to work for Disney. They were my first legitimate client. I was still in college and I did a project for them. Yeah, it was like, I was gobsmacked. But I was in my senior year of college. I did this first project for them. We wrapped it up and it was great. And I figured, all right, I worked for Disney. Like That's awesome. I'm so glad I got to work for them. I'm probably never going to do work for them again, but I'm glad I got to do that once in my career. And I developed a relationship with the client from Disney that I worked with, and we're still great buddies today. Really nice guy. And we were on the phone. He was talking to me about how he was thinking about maybe hiring me for another project, and he was scrolling through my Tumblr, which thankfully I kept very professional. So I feel like Tumblr, it's really easy to go unprofessional with Tumblr. And he's scrolling through and he spotted a video I did. I did a music video that was practically pro bono for a small musician in Canada at the time. And it was a major learning experience for me. I had very little experience with recording time-lapse videos, and it was really good for me to do, because despite the fact that I didn't really get paid for the video, it was a portfolio piece early in my career, and it was something that like I was interested enough in doing that I kind of got to do it on my own terms. I don't normally advocate for free work, but I can understand circumstances when people choose to take them. They just have to be for good reason. And it ended up being a great reason for me, because as this Disney employee scrolled through my feed on Tumblr, he saw this video I did months ago for this musician. And he's like, "You do videos? We need to do this for Disney. We need to make a video for Disney." And that's how I got a video job with Disney. So I guess like at that time, it felt like that project was a flop. Like the video didn't go viral on YouTube, and I think I got paid like very little for it. So it was a lot of effort that I put into a project, and I figured once it posted, that was the end of its like lifespan of like how I could like benefit from it. But it turns out that like it was seen by the right eyes down the road, and it ended up producing more opportunity for me. So while I sometimes feel like, you know, maybe I'll post a video to TikTok and it will flop, sometimes I'll post that same thing to Reddit 6 months later and it will hit the front page. Like I always encourage people to find ways to repurpose their content or simply repost it. Like I'm trying to get better about that myself, because we all have made really cool things, and sometimes it's just posted at the wrong time and the right people didn't see it that time. So that's something I'm working on more. Although I know with TikTok specifically, they're trying to not let people like repost their old videos. I heard there's go-arounds for that, but I have to learn more about that. Like if you edit it a little differently, maybe it will like circumvent the whatever bots they have trolling for you know, reposted content. But yeah, I find that like if I give my content another chance to thrive, sometimes that seed will blossom and other times it will wilt, and it's the same exact thing. The only difference is I posted it at a different time. So it might reach a whole new audience of people. And that's something that I'm working on doing more, because I know you and I probably have hundreds and hundreds of videos and other related things we've created that we were proud of, but they just didn't like get seen by anyone. And they could in the future. So yeah.
I agree with you, but I have a slightly different mindset with regards to this. So yeah. Two points here. Like firstly, yeah, I think it's really important to just keep posting, keep putting stuff out there. And then, you know, your old stuff will probably be seen by someone, as you say. Like I've had similar instances with regards to that. I've had people follow me or want to do business with me on the basis of something I did years ago, and I'm like, oh, okay, I forgot about that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, but like you know, it's like that old adage of, you know, you got to be in it to win it, like the lottery. You just have to keep trying, keep putting stuff out there, keep having a presence. Yeah. The algorithm isn't always in favor of you with TikTok. We will eventually get to live streaming in TikTok, by the way. It's just it's Princess Etch. There's so many questions, so many things. Like I could talk. I said this in the first episode, which I implore everyone to go check out. Like we could literally talk about business for hours, like, and I'd never get bored.
Oh, same. Yeah, another reason why I wanted to come back. It's just I feel like we could always, like, anytime the podcast ends, it's like, we could just keep talking.
That's why I try to ask the right questions, but it's tough. No, like, because for me, I'm just asking like the questions I want to know because I'm just intrigued about your business model. I think it's fascinating to meet someone who's got like this kind of very playful brand, but so much goes into it, from like the planning process, the considerations for branding, how you approach clients. Like I can tell it's very meticulous, and I like that. And I think that's really important. Yeah, just with any successful business or brand, it's just so important to do that. One question I want to ask you actually was with regards to like how you're making this possible, because you said like if you receive too many orders at one time, that would be too much. That'd be like overwhelming. Do you have like a support network? Like is your partner or family or whoever like helping you facilitate that? Like when things get busier, like I don't know, around the holiday season or something, like, or are you hiring people? Do you have a team of people doing stuff for you? I know you're very hands-on when it comes to social media and stuff, but like, do you have anyone helping you with the business side of things? And do you have plans to kind of expand that? Are you going to grow your empire, so to speak?
Yeah. Great questions. So for the most part, one of the reasons why I raise my pricing annually, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the big ones is that I want to be able to maintain being able to do all the work that I get. So I'm always trying to keep myself into a market where like I'm not getting too much work, because I want every job, like it would be amazing if suddenly like 5 people bought a commission from me, but that would really mess with my turnaround times. And I would be having to really sacrifice a lot of my personal life in order to accommodate being able to fulfill a bunch of orders at once. I think back to this is probably the closest thing I've ever had to like a viral selling experience. In 2014, in November, I had my first ever local news TV appearance, and it was a pre-recorded news segment that they debuted around Thanksgiving, and it heavily showcased these Etch-a-Sketch ornaments I made that were like a nice holiday gift. And after that debuted, and then I had a coincidental like local news article shared on the internet. After those debuted, I got like 30 orders for the holidays, which is basically my maximum capacity I could have handled at all. Like I was working full time. I was working like 50-hour work weeks at that time.
Oh, you had full-time job at that time?
Yeah. Well, so normally it was part-time, but because it was the holiday season, they had me step it up.
And you know what? I sorry to interject. Yeah. I remember this from our previous podcast. Now, this is the job that you had to quit, wasn't it? Like,
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And so I was like working like intense hours for the holidays for that. And then I got this slew of 30 orders, and I didn't want to say no to anyone. So I did all of them. I skipped Thanksgiving with my family.
Oh, wow.
I would literally go home from work on my commissions, go to bed, get up, go to work, come home from work on, like that was like pretty much the entire rest of November, and then through like halfway through December. That was my life. And it was exciting because I was like constantly making art. Like I thought like, this is it. I finally made it. But what's funny is that, you know, back then I was selling ornaments for like $40 for a preserved Etch-a-Sketch. And these days that starts at like 170. So I think 2 years later, I made the decision, it was a scary one, to like triple my prices essentially. And I was really scared that I was going to like lose all of my business doing that. And I had to make that decision for a few reasons. First off, the $40 ornaments was not paying me enough for my time. Second, it wasn't sustainable. Like I can't make a business only making that much money. Third, you know, it's a specialty product, so I have to like consider that it has inherent value because it's not something people can just get anywhere. But fourth, the 2 years later when I raised my pricing, I made like $3,000 that holiday season, which was like the most I'd ever made. That was incredible. That was 30 orders though. I think like 30 orders for $3,000. I think 2 years later, I think I got 4 orders and I made $3,000. Like for the same, like, you know, like the same amount of money for like a fraction of the work. And so I lost a lot of my original clientele because they were priced out. And you know, the way that I look at it is like, those were the early adapters. They are the people that can look at their art they bought from me and be like, I got this for only $40, but she's charging $200 now for it. Like that makes me feel good to know that like they got a deal, and I hope they feel that way too. Like, and so, you know, I look at it that way. And then I also feel like So that's one of the reasons why I have my pricing as it is, because I actually do in a way want to discourage people from buying too much, because I kind of have it like set at that really nice sweet spot where like I'm never finding myself too busy where I can't handle the amount of work I get, or if I do find myself with like an incredible amount of work, I'm being incredibly well compensated for it. So it's worth the occasional all-nighter. It's worth the having to move some plans aside if I need to. That's kind of one of the things that helped me. As far as having help, I guess, you know, having my rebranding done and my website designed by someone else is truly the first time in my business that I've really entrusted another with like a major aspect of my job, or just, you know, the way that I run my business, because I was pretty scared about it. And I made sure to communicate this to my designer. I was like, I'm used to doing everything on my own. I'm used to like every aspect of my business essentially being run by myself. And so this is going to be, you know, I'm either going to be a great client or your worst client. I'm going to do my best to be a good client for you, but this is my baby. And I know you know that, because it's your job to like treat this like a precious commodity. And, you know, so I trusted her with this thing that was a little scary to let go of, because I'm so used to having control over every aspect of my business. And she knocked it out of the park and did a better job than I ever could. So that's, you know, that's the beauty of it. I kept telling myself for years that I would take a month off and rebuild my website.
Yeah.
I never did that. And it's like, I paid this designer to do it instead. And the beauty of doing that is that it still freed me up to do work for a month. So it's like, I want to get to a point where I can start to delegate more. I do occasionally have people assist me at events, but it's because I don't have enough hands to do everything at once. And then on occasion, especially during the holidays, like I've become pickier about the kind of work I like to do. So sometimes people will say, oh, can you do this drawing that's like a few lines of text or whatever? And I don't really like drawing like written word on Etch-a-Sketch. So I'll say, you know what, that's not for me, but there's a community of Etch-a-Sketch artists and this person's available for commissions, and their rates might even be lower than mine. So this is more their wheelhouse. Why don't you reach out to them, and, you know, maybe you can facilitate a sale from there, or like, you know, because there's like a community of us, we all kind of have our own specialties too. So if I find myself like swamped with work on that rare occasion, I can, you know, possibly get someone else a gig. So that's always like, you know, and that's something that I feel like the Etch-a-Sketch artist community, we're pretty good about. Like, there have been times where people have passed a job to me as well because they couldn't take it for one reason or another. So we scratch each other's backs.
No, I get that. I think that's important. I especially agree with what you said about pricing. I had a similar situation recently because I do like marketing, sales, all sorts of stuff, freelance. And one of those things is just copywriting and content writing. I've been doing it for the past 5 years now. And same as you, raised my prices every year. I didn't realize until the last couple of years just how important that raising of prices is, as far as you know, like how much time it takes you to do things, and also the perception that the client or the companies that you work with have of your work. And I actually raised my prices quite significantly recently for a regular client of mine. And they immediately said, yeah, they said, oh, well, this is verging on salary prices, like in terms of what we would order from you. And I said, well, I know you can afford it. And also at the same time, I'm very cheap in comparison to what the market rates are, which is true. Yeah. And I gave some examples of like agencies and what they charged at just at the low end, which was double what I was charging. And then I gave an example of what some companies charge in the maximum. So some companies, for example, will charge like 3,000 per article, which is nuts to think about. But it's all to do with, you know, the idea of, oh, you're getting a solid piece of work, you're getting this, you're getting that. And I've always been very fair with what I do because I'm very hands-on, meticulous with the things that I do. So I factor that in, and the time and effort, and also the back and forth, you know, like I'm not going to charge clients if there's back and forth with the client, because I expect that to be part of the process, but that will inevitably drive the price up. And I think it's not just the perception of your work itself, but how much you value your time. you got to charge according to your time, because that's the thing. Time is so valuable, and in a business context, it's even more so. And I think what's fascinating about what you do, which, because I have a question in mind for you, but at the same time, I'm like, I already know the answer. I don't think you're ever going to consider having other people do your work for you, are you? You're never going to have a team of people that work under you.
No.
Right.
No, I don't think so. I've even had
Mhm.
people recently ask me about outsourcing the preservation process for my Etch-a-Sketch art, and ideally that would be awesome, but even that is such a meticulous process that it's hard to trust another person to do it correctly. Like I still mess up, and I've been doing it for years. So it's like, it's not a matter of not trusting people enough. It's a matter of like recognizing that the process is so difficult that I just want to make sure that I administer it in the best way that I can.
So with that in mind, it basically means that your work, A, is only ever going to get more expensive as time goes on.
Yeah.
And B, because of the nature of the fact that you don't have anyone else doing it, you are the only person doing it. People are not just paying for your product, they're paying for you specifically to do that. And, you know, the more, I don't know, famous you get, or the more renowned you get, or the more people you reach, the more those costs are going to go up and up and up. Like it's not even necessarily because of you and like, obviously you'll be deciding those prices, but it would be beyond you, if that makes sense. It's like, this just has to happen because of the nature of how your business is constructed in that sense.
Yeah. And then every year, you know, we're becoming more expert in our fields too. So, you know, that deserves compensation. And then not even to mention inflation. Like it's all there's all like really good reasons to raise your pricing. I've even thought about, like, if I were to decide one day I'm done with this being my full-time endeavor, which might happen in the future, I'm not sure, but if I decided one day I want to go get a more traditional 9 to 5 again, the grass is greener over on the 9 to 5 side, let's go do that, I would actually raise my prices a lot more instead of lower them. Because if I were to get a 9 to 5 job, that would be what I'd be spending my life doing for a living. And I wouldn't want to be spending my time off the clock taking on more work. So it's like, well, if you really want me to spend my personal time making a project for you, then you're going to have to pay an ultra premium for it. So, you know, that way it's like, you know, that's the only way you're going to motivate me to pick up an Etch-a-Sketch on my downtime when I want to, you know, have a nice weekend and relax. So, yeah. I mean, if anyone's considering buying art from me, it's only going to get more expensive. At least as far as commissions go. Yeah. So it's definitely a, you know, that might be counterintuitive to a lot of people because, you know, but there's also, and this is something I really firmly believe in. The biggest power you have in negotiation is being able to walk away. So if I had a 9 to 5, I'm being, all of my, you know, in theory, all of my financial needs are being met already. So if I raise my prices, it's because I'm okay with people not buying my art. I'm okay with, like, if you can't afford it, or if you don't want to spend that money, if you don't find it to be of that value, that doesn't bother me at all. I don't fault you for feeling that way. And you don't have to buy it. Like, you could complain about the price, but like, you're not my customer, and that's okay because you're not the person I'm trying to reach. Someone who values my art enough is going to pay the price I ask for it.
This is an amazing point as well, because I think it's very important that people realize that often when these companies or clients come to you, they think, oh, you desperately need me. You need me. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. I had a company reach out to me via TikTok, and they said, I won't name the company for obvious reasons, but they were like, it was a major company. I was going to give away. They have they have a product. I'll tell you off camera. They have a product which has an app as well. It's fairly well known. It's international product. I was kind of surprised that they reached out to me. I think they were just looking at my numbers, to be honest, but they weren't looking at engagement. So to put that into perspective, as I mentioned earlier, I have 29,000 followers. Yeah, but how many people are regularly watching my videos? Average is about 200 viewers per
Okay.
video.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I have a similar problem with my account too. So I
and
get
and
that.
that and that's fine. You know, that's amazing. But like from a marketing perspective,
Yeah.
it's
As
not.
like influencer marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Like, you know, if I had like 1,000 reach, 5,000 reach per video, and of those people, I don't know, maybe 500 buy it, then it'd be worth it. It's not. It wouldn't be worth it. So I was a bit puzzled from a business standpoint why they were contacting me, but I was like,
Sure.
whatever. They want to throw money my way. Great, let's do it. So, and it was around the Christmas season, so I created an advert and I did it in my style because I'm a content creator. And I was really proud of it. It was a video that was timed perfectly. You know that song that goes, "It's the most wonderful time of the year." That one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you know that at the beginning it goes, "Bing, boom, boom, do, do, do." So there's like you can imagine, and I cut it in that way. I went out. I filmed a bunch of stuff. I even got a friend of mine one of my housemates to help me film it and everything.
Cool.
Like I really went into a lot of effort to create it, and it basically showed the place that I live, Manchester, and it showed me using the product in the context of that, like, oh, look at all these things you can use it for, you know, right? Brilliant.
Yeah.
And then they messaged me and they were like, oh yeah, great, could you do a voiceover for it? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, fine, I can make it work. So I did a voiceover on top of that, still managed to keep the setup that I had, and if anything it added more to it, to be honest. It was good.
Good. Yeah.
Now they get back to me again and they're like, oh well, could you not maybe show that it's on TFL? Now, for those who don't know, Transport for London, that's what TFL is. I live in Manchester.
Yeah.
I do not live in London. I'm from London, but I don't live in London. And it's very obvious. And I tagged in and I made it clear that it's in Manchester. You can tell. So I don't live in that region. That's number one. Number two, they were like, oh, we need it to be, a bit more professional. You need to add this in. You need to add that in. And I was like, look, this is have you watched my channel? Have you seen the way I do things? Like, this is what you're going to get. Like, I'm not a marketing agency. I'm not a professional creator in the sense that, you know, like I do professional adverts. If you want that, go hire a marketing agency, you know. I didn't say that in those words, but you know, I was like, well, what is this? Like, I've already created this for you, you know, like this is getting a bit ridiculous now. Obviously I put it in a business format, you know. I didn't
Right. You're a professional.
Never speak like this in business term. You can communicate this same message, but you can do it in a professional way.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, fine. And then they said something which actually annoyed me. They were like, oh, we're looking for a partnership, a long-term partnership with a content creator to do X, Y, and Z. And I was like, okay. So basically what they're implying is that I'm not professional enough to do this, and, you know, but they didn't care about what I was doing. I could tell this is just a numbers thing. I can tell that someone looked at my account and went, yeah, that ticks the box. He's got enough followers. Target him, throw some money at him. They weren't even offering that much money, to be honest with you. It was all right, but you know, for an advert, especially if I take off in the future, you know, they're getting a bargain from me. And I know how advertising works. Like, you always get fleeced for an advert. If you've recorded an advert and put your voice to it for, like, say 500, they've probably made like 50,000 from it, you know, at a low level.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
But they look at it like they're doing me a favor. They're helping me out. I'm the small, lowly content creator that, you know, and this goes back to what you were saying before. Sometimes the power is in walking away. I was like, no, thank you. I'm good then. And I walked away. And I'm sure they probably looked at me like, oh, he's an idiot. Like, you know, he loses out. But you know what? I don't lose out. I have my integrity. I have my time. I'm not going to waste
my. You dodged a bullet.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not going to waste my time trying to pander and continuously tweak something that was already good.
Yeah.
You know, and I posted the video anyway without their stuff in it, and it was a decent video, and I was proud of it. And
cool.
It just.
I'm glad you were able to use the content still, because that's always heartbreaking if you make it like surrounding a product that like you end up not wanting to like promote or support. So that's cool. That's really cool. You were able to like still there was a silver lining to it.
Yeah, no, there always is. And I think you just have to have the right attitude in these situations. Like some companies, it just doesn't work out with. Some clients, it doesn't work out with, and that's okay. And you always have to try and keep it professional.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if they don't act professional, that's their problem. Make sure every correspondence that you have with anyone is always professional.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. It never behooves you to burn a bridge.
mhm.
Um,
It
even
just
if you
makes you look
feel,
bad.
yeah, even if you feel like even if you feel really justified in burning the bridge, like it's a small world, and you don't know what the
Yep.
future holds. Even if you just really find it in you, like it really grates you, you feel wronged. It's definitely from a professional perspective a really bad idea. Yeah.
So let's finally talk
Yeah.
about TikTok and live streaming. I
Yeah.
know everyone's probably been really aggravated that I kept switching and pushing it around. But hey, there's just, like I said before, there's so many questions to ask this lady, and I still haven't even asked barely any of them here. I've just been ad-libbing the whole time, pretty much. Um, but yeah, I want to talk TikTok because
Yeah.
I think TikTok and you, which has been the most successful for you? Let's start there, because I think Instagram, and we spoke about this a little bit in the first
Yeah.
episode that we did together. TikTok and YouTube seem to be the two that I think were doing particularly well. I could be wrong in that,
Yeah.
because I seem to recall that you had some success in the last year where YouTube actually like advertised you or something, which was really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Um,
It's it's interesting. With so the primary three platforms that I'm most active on are Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And YouTube and TikTok have most recently given me a platform that I was not expecting. So YouTube has featured me as a creator on the rise in 2020, which is basically
mm,
like a 24-hour feature on the homepage of the website.
wow.
So that was incredible. I think my subscriber count went up like 20,000 that day. So like meteoric difference in my subscriber count. And then YouTube also featured me for International Women's Day last year, which was really
Oh,
unexpected and cool. Yeah, so I feel like there's like a tendrils of of some kind of a partnership between me and YouTube. Like I'm on their list somewhere, which is incredible and something I never imagined or expected would happen. So I'm all about fostering that relationship further. And then on the flip side, quite recently, TikTok has put me on one of their lists. So they featured me in a live spotlight earlier this month.
okay.
And that, similar to YouTube, is like a 24-hour feature on their like there's like a whole section on the live creators page where you can just see like a list of people that they spotlight like 2 or 3 times a week. And that was also an incredible boon. I think so. I went live most of that day and I gained like 5,000 followers that day from just going live and interacting with people on TikTok. So TikTok has also been starting to like, they've noticed me, which is another thing that like most creators don't ever get noticed by the platform. So I just feel incredible gratitude that that has even happened. Um, so with TikTok, I've been live streaming there for the last week or so. I've been streaming there daily. And you mentioned earlier that you used to stream daily, right? And yeah, no kidding, that can be taxing because that's like a chunk of your day that you dedicate to like speaking to an audience and performing for them. And I like it, but I could see how it's like it's a decision I have to make to take the time out of my day every day for that. Yeah.
I moved to Twitch,
Yeah.
and I've been everywhere: Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I actually moved away from TikTok because I got banned forever, seemingly. And I've told the story many times before. It was a silly story, so I won't bore the listeners with it again. But basically, they banned me for saying a particular word in the context of advertising, as
Ooh.
in mature content kind of thing. So you can sort of
Okay.
get where I'm coming from there. So I named a company that
Yeah.
produces mature content. And
Oh.
I was talking about advertising because I have an international audience. I've always seemed to have an international audience, and many
Yeah.
of them were not familiar with this like Christmas advertising campaigns that we have here in the UK because it's quite a it's not hot, like I think America does it too, but like we have quite a lot of competition between certain companies and supermarkets, like who can get the best Christmas advert. You know, it's like who's the most compelling, because it's like a story. It's not even anything to do with the actual supermarkets. It's like, oh look, this company did a story about a rabbit and how
Cool.
it got like a cute little teddy as its Christmas gift, or I don't know, something like that, whatever.
That's really cool. Yeah, I don't feel like our supermarkets compete in the US like that. Like that's really, I want to learn more about that.
Yeah, I can send you some stuff afterwards.
Cool.
But so I was talking about that,
Yeah.
and then I explained that sometimes even companies you wouldn't expect do that. And then I gave this example of this particular company, and again, above board, it was an advert that was played on daytime TV in the UK. It was perfectly fine. I mean, it wouldn't have been on TV otherwise, right? And it was a very tongue-in-cheek, funny advert. And I spoke about it for like about 10 seconds, mentioned the company name, and then moved on. And they proceeded to ban me for life. And I appealed it, and loads of my audience appealed it, and I've never received anything in response. I personally think that TikTok is a farce, because I see lots of content that is really inappropriate on that platform. Everything from, well, let's just leave it there.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, stuff that I look at and I'm like, really? You're going to ban me for saying this word, but you got all of this stuff on your content? Like, this is despicable. That's kind of where I'm at with it. It used to be annoyance. Now I'm like, it's despicable. Whatever.
No, I really understand your frustration.
That's the thing. Like, it surprised me when I got banned, but I just let it go. I moved to other platforms, Twitch, Christian Reeve Official, come check me out. But then I started seeing you getting banned.
Yeah.
And that started to really infuriate me and confuse me. Because at first I was like, oh, maybe it's just some trolls messing around. But it kept happening and kept happening and kept happening. Yep. Talk us through your experiences with getting banned and what's going on there. Because it doesn't make any sense to me why you would be banned.
Yeah. I am one of the lucky few to actually find out why I got banned.
Oh.
I'll share that at the end of the story. So basically, for anyone who's never been in a live stream of mine before, I will take live requests for what to create on an Etch-a-Sketch over the course of a few minutes. So basically, I tell the chat, all right, guys, spam your requests. I'm going to select one at random. And then I'll just, okay, that one. I'm going to Etch-a-Sketch Goku from Dragon Ball Z. And then in 10 minutes or less, I'll create a live Goku drawing and everyone watches. And, we talk about anime for a bit while I'm drawing it. And that's the general gist of my live streams. And I was doing, I was trying to figure out ways to monetize my live streams. And the thing is, people don't really donate on TikTok lives very much, or if they do donate, it is literally fractions of a penny. So when you get a rose on TikTok, if somebody donates a rose, which is like the most common donation you can receive, that is worth half a penny USD. A rose is half a penny. So when you get 20 roses, that's 10 cents. And it's great. And it does add up over time, but it trickles. So I could be having a live stream with maybe 3,000 people watching at my max. And maybe overall there's 85,000 viewers who tune in. And after streaming for an hour, I'll end the stream and I'll make $4.23, and that's like a good day on TikTok. So it's like, how can I solve this problem? I want to live stream more. Obviously, TikTok is pushing my content because it finds it engaging. It's hitting the FYP. The audience is sticking around because they enjoy it. So is there a way for me to actually make this a sustainable thing for me on TikTok? So I was brainstorming. And one problem that I found in my streams is that people would keep asking me to create X, Y, or Z, but I wouldn't get to it because there's 2,000 people watching and I'm one human. I can't do all the requests. So I came up with, the first idea I had was I made live stream commission slots on Etsy. So basically you go to Etsy, it's $10 US. You get your request guaranteed to be fulfilled on a future live stream. We coordinate for the time and what you want drawn. And what you're paying for is the experience of watching your request being made. And you can take a screenshot and I give you a shout out because it's like, this person requested this. And then you get to watch it being made. And there's like a live audience that's watching it too. So that was, my solution to the problem, so to say. And it worked okay. Like, I would get a couple commissions here and there. The problem is I tell people, go to the link in my bio, and then they got to go to my link in bio, and then they go to Etsy, and then they got to process the transaction through Etsy. And do they have to put in their credit card number? Probably. And by the time they go through all these steps, it's like I lost them. Who's going to want to jump through all those hoops? So then I had a big brain thought one day, and it wasn't even my idea. I was watching someone else's live stream, and they were doing drawings, like really poorly done, quick drawings on lined paper. And it was like, donate sunglasses, I shred it. Donate a heart with a lock in it, and I keep it. And their chat was going wild. Like, they were getting like 1 billion, like just all of these notifications popping for donations. And it's like, that's it. If I keep people in the app and I get them to donate in app, then I don't have to have them jump through the hoops, and they're more likely to want to get their request fulfilled on the spot than have to schedule it for a future stream. So I thought, all right, let's do this. So I don't know if you've ever like explored the options of like different emojis you can donate, but they all have different monetary values. So I started like learning about how much is this worth? How much would it be worth my time if I asked for this? And I came up with the system where it's like, if you donate a gold mine, then you can, request that the drawing is made. Or if you donate a galaxy, I will erase what I'm drawing. Like having a lot of fun with it and making it like really urgent. And I had live streams where I made like $50 in an hour. I had live streams where I made $75 in an hour doing this.
Oh,
and
wow.
The chat was like freaking out, but I kept getting banned. It's like I would start doing this, and then suddenly the rug is pulled from under me. And every single time I would get banned for misinformation. And it's like, I'm not talking about anything regarding misinformation. I'm not talking about the election. I'm not talking about vaccines. I'm as far as you could get from political content. and it's like, what does that even mean? And so obviously it's like, well, I was just banned for no reason. Like that's not, I didn't do that. So I would appeal, and time again, TikTok denies my appeal within minutes of me submitting it. And now for me, I'm lucky because my bans last only a week, but you know what it's like as a live streamer. If you get derailed from streaming for an entire week, that messes with you. Like you might have had a schedule going, you might have had some good momentum going, and now you cannot do that. That sucks. So it was infuriating, and I kept trying and finding that I had this problem. Well, one day I hosted a live stream on TikTok, and it performed really well. And I got a message from TikTok, like in the app. And you know how like you can get a notification from TikTok and it'll tell you this or that? It was actually a message from a staff member at TikTok. And she's like, hi, I'm so-and-so at TikTok. I saw your live stream and I would love to connect with you via email about a potential future live streaming opportunity with TikTok. And I'm like, amazing. So we scheduled a meeting. I got to talk to her, and she was really excited to like tell me about, I can't talk about everything we said, but like, there was like NDAs associated, but basically she wanted to put me on a list for, consideration for like being able to know about some new features and like being considered for a future TikTok spotlight. And I was all about that. And then I kind of derailed the conversation because she wanted to know from me personally, like, what kind of features would you like to see in future TikTok lives? And I was like, well, I keep having this problem actually. And I was like super cool about it. Like, I know it's not your fault, right? But I keep getting banned. And she's like, oh, I know why. It's probably because of gift baiting. And I'm like, because of what? What is gift baiting? And she explained that by doing anything in any capacity on TikTok to ask for a donation, even though I'm performing a task in exchange for the donation, that is against TikTok terms of service. And that was news to me. because I've looked through the TikTok terms of service, I've read through their community guidelines. Every time I've gotten banned, I've combed through and never saw that word gift baiting. And I said, okay, well then why am I getting banned for misinformation if that's the problem? And she told me straight up that she concedes that TikTok needs to do a better job of being more transparent about the reasoning, because she knows that that doesn't make sense either. And I said, well, that's, you know, that's huge news to me. I would have loved to have known this months ago when I first started getting banned, because I kept, you know, I wouldn't have kept gift baiting if I knew it was a problem, because it's in my best interest to have my TikTok live streaming privileges. And she told me that she would send me some resources, and she did. And then I found on the only place I could find TikTok making an official stance on this was on like one of their TikTok live websites where you could scroll through, and it's like, make sure to not gift bait, and then describing what that is. And, you know, basically I asked her, it's like, well, okay, that's a real bummer, because what do you suggest that I do to make this a monetizable platform for me? Because frankly, I'm happy to keep producing valuable content for your platform, and I'm glad that you find my content valuable enough to like put me on a list for future consideration and for features. But the fact of the matter is I'm doing this for free, and I'm not really getting compensation for it. And ideally, I don't mind that you get a cut. Like, if I get donations through your platform, you're taking a 50% cut, which is higher than a lot of other platforms. But I don't mind that as long as I'm making enough money to sustain the time I'm spending doing live streaming, where I could be doing other work that I'm getting paid for, right? Like I could be focusing on other projects or planting other seeds or, you know, promoting other endeavors. And so I asked her, like, what can I do as a creator on your platform to better guarantee that I can actually make this sustainable for myself? And she said, well, you can ask for compensation off the platform. And that's what I've been doing technically with Etsy, right? Like I ask people to donate through Etsy, and that's like, it's a really unfortunate answer, right? Because like I said earlier, who wants to jump through those hoops? Who wants, the moment you ask someone to leave your live stream, the probability of them coming back is pretty low. Like the internet's a distracting place. You're going to leave the app. Like you're asking me to tell my own viewers on TikTok to leave your app to go give me money off platform. Like that seems so counterproductive to like TikTok's mission. Like they want to keep people on their app. They want to make money through their app. So I don't know exactly why TikTok has that policy, because it seems definitely counterproductive to like money making. But maybe it has something to do with like safety guidelines with children or something. I know children aren't supposed to be able to donate on the app, but I think that they just get away with it because of like they just lie about their age. So I don't know. I've got a lot of mixed feelings about it, and that communicated to me like I love TikTok. It's definitely my most successful live streaming platform, but everyone tells me I gotta jump ship because I cannot sustain myself on that platform. The only way I sustain myself is when I get people to buy something else while on my live, which can be sustainable. Like I got a few weeks ago, I was hosting a live stream and somebody bought a $350 drawing of mine on Etsy because they were watching my stream. And it's like, that doesn't happen every day. But like, if I make $10 from a print sale on my stream, like, you know, ideally I'd like to make minimum wage because it is work. But,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of fringe benefits. Like I get new followers. My follow count on TikTok has skyrocketed in, you know, the last few months from streaming consistently. But that number doesn't mean much if I can't, as a business, capitalize on it in very blunt terms. So that's kind of where I am with TikTok live streaming. And I feel so lucky to know why I got banned and to have that reasoning going forward, because I stopped gift baiting. But it's so infuriating to go on the app and see everyone else is still doing it anyways. Like I go to streams all the time where if you have any signage up that says like donate X and this will happen, that's gift baiting. Like that's definition of gift baiting, and it's inconsistent on how things are moderated. I think if my streams were popular, if they hit the FYP, people are more likely to report me for it, and therefore I've been banned more frequently because I've had success. So it's a double-edged sword.
I still to this day don't actually know what happened with mine. I think I am theorizing. I think a few people, because it said on mine, it says there's multiple violation, multiple instances where I broke the community guidelines on the basis of what did they say? Adult content and sexual nudity, something like that.
Oh man, yeah, that sucks.
And I was thinking about this, and I was like, okay. And then the only thing I could think of straight away was, okay, I said that word, the name of the company, in context of advertising, as I outlined before.
Yeah.
But they never gave me a concrete answer, because I spoke to them, as in, actually, no, I never spoke to them. I tried to send an appeal.
Yeah.
And then they've got this backward process. We have to go to like some separate website to do it. And so I sent it. And then about 11 people from my community sent appeals on my behalf as well, going like, no, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
And I waited for a month, never got any replies. And someone in my community was like, well, why don't you send another message? Just see what happens, send another appeal. So I did. And this time I got a response. And I was like, oh, great. And then I just see it's another one of those, copy and pasted answers. And it didn't tell me anything. It's still to this day, I don't know what the problem was. If the problem was don't say the name of these companies, don't ever mention that, fine. But tell me, give me a warning. Don't ban me forever. Like,
that's terrible.
That's the thing.
I felt Fury being banned for a week consistently for a problem I didn't know, but you got banned forever. Like that's
the thing.
terrible.
It makes no sense to me. I mean, they lost me. Like, okay, maybe it's not a big blow to them. I get it. I'm not a big streamer, but hey, maybe one day I will be, and then maybe they'll be like, he started on our platform. Maybe we could have kept him by reinstating him, but no, just this is where it infuriates me, because I've seen stuff on that platform, especially on lives, which is definitely not appropriate, and not appropriate in the context of what I just mentioned.
Yeah.
And yet those people still remain on there. They never get banned. They never get challenged. I mean, part of me just thinks like, okay, maybe just TikTok, they punish small creators, but they reward people that are getting them a lot of traffic, and they don't care about their own guidelines on that front. I don't know. I'm very confused about the whole thing. I just can, like, I'm pretty sure I'm forever shadow banned. I mentioned this in recent episodes as well, so sorry for rehashing the same things, but since we're on the topic of TikTok,
no, please.
It's I'm pretty sure that's the case, and I don't know why. I don't post anything that's inappropriate. Most racy stuff I ever do is in the context of acting. Maybe I might drop the odd F-bomb or something, but it's not really, do you know what I mean? It's not like wholly inappropriate. I think I'm a very pretty squeaky clean content creator. Like, for instance, in my community, I have a mixture of different ages, ranging from like young teens all the way up to people in their 60s. So it's definitely it's content that can appeal to everyone and is safe,
I aspire to that as well, like keeping it where underage people watching are welcome and they're not going to have to worry about being exposed to inappropriate content for their age range, and then also like still making it engaging enough for adults. I
don't know. I really struggle with this app. I think it's because it's so heavily unregulated, and it's not, maybe because it's a Chinese company, so they don't adhere to the same rules that maybe like American companies would, as far as like how, because if this was like Facebook or YouTube or something, it would be heavily regulated on that front.
Yeah.
to protect as well. And that I understand, that I get. But I mean, you've really got to review people properly. Like in my instance, they did owe me a response and they didn't give me one, and then I just kind of went, oh, okay, I guess we're just leaving then. And I'm much happier on Twitch. Like
Yeah, I
even
get,
if
and that's kind of like the silver lining, right? Like you're probably better off on
what
another platform, but
it,
it sucks no matter
it,
what.
I reached more people
Yeah,
on TikTok. That much is a little bit
that's
infuriating.
what keeps me there. Like that's I get it. You know, it's like people tell me I could have more profitable streams on
On
Twitch,
Twitch,
or
yeah.
but it's like, but you know firsthand how it is getting people over to Twitch and discoverability on Twitch.
With
It's
that's
different.
the thing. That the key difference, and I've said this before, but the key difference is Twitch is purely about going to this specific app and enjoying this content. Like you're going there to be a viewer, but it's not like YouTube where you don't have to have an account to enjoy it. Like Twitch, you kind of have to have it. Like you have to
Yeah.
download the app. It's not really that straightforward. It forces you to do a lot of things that other apps don't do. Whereas TikTok, same thing as well. You can just sit there. You can create a private account, and you just scroll through, and it's very straightforward. It's very easy in that sense. Um, and people don't, to the point, the difference that people don't really go there necessarily to watch streams. They go there to be entertained by a range of different content. But here's the thing, and I think maybe why you should consider Twitch in the future maybe is that it is for building that audience and having committed people that are actually engaged with it. Because on TikTok, you get a range of people that are, and then a range of people that are not. Like for instance, I rarely ever have mod problems now. Whereas on
Cool.
TikTok, I had to have like 20 different mods.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I know on TikTok it's the same thing for me, where I feel like my mods need to be actively in the chat or we're gonna have problems. But that is one thing that I've been experimenting with a lot lately is I'll do a live stream and I will have two portions. The first portion is the live Etch a Sketch art, and that's where it's always popping. Like I'll get 1,000 people minimum usually, and it's great. Then I'll move on to the second portion where I just go in front of the camera and I just talk to my viewers for a bit. It's like, thanks to everybody who watched the first half of this. This was lots of fun. Now I'm just going to cool down and chit chat. And that I will now have about between 1 and 200 people just hanging around and watching. And they stick around for like an hour and they
Oh
just
wow.
listen.
Okay.
And it's incredible to me. And those are the people that it's like, well, maybe I should just say going forward, all right, first portion of this stream is done. I'm going to be chit-chatting over on Twitch if anyone wants to join me, or making more art on Twitch. And that's the step I haven't taken yet. It's a little bit scary to like choose to like say, all right, goodbye everyone. If you want to see me, go over there now.
Right.
And I haven't done that yet. I did it once for a test stream and I got one viewer on Twitch. They got a free request. I had to sketch a Gengar for him because I held to my word. I was like, I'm going to go on Twitch in a few minutes. And of course, it was clunky. It took me a few minutes to set up. And by that time, I lost everyone. But one. I got one. So, yeah.
As we draw things to a close, just a final couple of questions. Changing the gears. So I think I did actually ask you my my famous question. Well, it's not famous question, but I always ask my guests about the biggest life lesson. But I think I've already asked you that. So here's another question, similar.
Yeah.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh, the best advice I've ever received. I'm going to try to think of like the first really good piece. It's so hard to pick the best. Okay, I guess, pick a niche is a pretty good one. Pick a niche. I know it's like a common piece of advice, but I think it was a piece of advice that I even received in college, back in art school. And a niche can mean so many different things. For me, my niche is Etch a Sketch, but even within Etch a Sketch, I'm a niche because I've made myself different than other Etch a Sketch artists in the way that my content and my branding looks and the subject matters of Etch a Sketch art that I draw and the way that I dress and, the name of my business. Like, so within that sense, the more you make yourself a niche in many different ways, the more people are going to want to tune in to see you. not just people who do what you do. So I think, or the more likely people are to hire you specifically. Like, you know, if you're an artist, maybe you have a proclivity for drawing houses, and you know, maybe there's a specific kind of house that you really like to draw. If you like lean into your niches and like start like getting more and more specific, you're more likely to become the expert in that niche and become the authority on that niche. And then kind of like SEO, you're more likely for people who are looking for that niche to find you. So I guess from kind of a marketing standpoint, the more you lean into like what you love the most and what you know, want to share the most, the more beneficial it's going to be.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure.
As we draw to a close for today, is there any final thoughts on your mind or any upcoming projects that you'd like to share with our listeners?
So final thoughts, I guess, I'm excited to see what the future of social media holds. Not with the metaverse. I don't like the whole metaverse thing, but I'm
Does
excited.
anyone?
I know. Only like corporate shareholders like the metaverse. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see what kind of new innovations will come to light due to the competition that was primarily created by TikTok. I might have my misgivings about TikTok, but I think that they were a very healthy disruptor in the social media climate. It's forced Instagram to really reconsider a lot of their crappy practices and finally pay content creators for the first time. Like,
Yeah.
what a novel concept. Maybe we want to be paid for everything we give you. And it's also caused YouTube to really reevaluate some things too. So for that reason, I'm really excited to see what kind of new innovations come to allow people on the internet to make a living making whatever they want to make on the internet. So I have a hopeful note for the future, and I'm always excited to see the new things to come. Yeah.
Wow. Speaking of which, I can't wait to see the new things that come from you in the future, because it's been really interesting watching you sort of, well, meeting you initially and then just seeing your brand grow. And yeah, I really admire everything that you do, and real pleasure to have you back on the show again. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks so much for having me again. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And to everyone listening to the Christian Reeve podcast, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. As always, be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.